Hello, everyone. This is David Leibowitz with Philosophy of Video Game Philosophy, and I am absolutely excited to have the newly announced voice of Huo Huo and Trish and Renne Bright, Van Zhong and Love Live, all these, and of course Tine and Fire Emblem Heroes, and many others. Obviously, Dracula as a like number one role, but we are not of interest in that, as I'm sure you've talked about Dracula many other times. So that for now. But yeah, are you happy to? It's great to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on this awesome show.
All right. Well, without further ado, we like to do something. I want to ease you in. So obviously you remember that you were Trish in Triangle Strategy, right? You remember.
Mm-hmm.
Um, have you ever heard? Have you? So I was surprised. And I remember when I was playing the game, so I've beaten all the paths. That you hear little jazz music when the bandits are on. I didn't I didn't realize how I it took me a year later when I started to get to know you that I actually listened to this track myself and realized how good it is. Have you ever heard this track proper in its
I actually have not, because I have not played this game. I've only seen clips of it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna play this for you, and you're gonna tell me if you feel like it fits you and Eric Ross character. All right.
Okay.
Does that make so when you
Wow.
that your character would be associated with this freaking awesome track?
Honestly, I'm shocked because I would not have expected that as a choice, but now that I'm hearing it, I love it. I have so much respect for jazz music. It's not something that I listen to regularly, but when I do listen to it, I'm always like amazed at how all the sounds come together and it sounds so like almost like a symphony, because of all the different instruments involved. And I don't know, there's something so like I would describe Trish and or her family like swashbuckling, like even though they're not exactly your traditional pirate, but like I don't know, there's just something like swanky about that music. And even though they're not like necessarily like posh people, like there's something swanky in their style, so I think it really works.
I mean, I feel like it. I mean, I remember someone did a presentation on like a video game SoundCon talking about the different Zelda like things like Zelda animals. I think there was like one that felt like that old style like 1920s jazz, and I
Yeah.
feel like that you might have like Trish and Travis. They're trying to go to like they're turning them into this like old New York style gang. Does that
Right.
that's what it feels like, or I mean,
Yeah, I mean, they've got these big personalities, right? So I guess that kind of makes sense.
yes. Well, how much? So I know you've only seen clips of it, um,
Hmm.
but how much you can see why something like that. I know when I first met you, I said, "Hey, I like philosophy." Literally the most overtly ethical dilemma came out is this game. I mean, you know, you're familiar with that, like the character makes different choices and all that. You're with
Yes, I know it's like a multiple storyline game, and it's actually possible to play the game without ever meeting Trish, depending on,
that.
right, what storyline.
It's actually wrong. It's possible to not recruit her.
Oh, to recruit her, that's what it was. Okay, yes.
She's literally
There
the
it is.
first person you meet that's not one of the main characters.
Got it, got it, got it.
Like they're like glorified bandits, right? So they're the first
Yes.
others. They're like making they're havoc to the citizens, and then later on, if you basically you can recruit Trish if there's this group of like oppressed people called the Roselle.
Mhm.
Does the name ring a bell? The Roselle?
Yeah, uh-huh.
And if you in an earlier part of the game, you have a choice if you want to either protect them or you want to sell them off. And if you protect them, protect the oppressed people, later on, if you go with Frederica, and then I think you fight Trish because she's angry, like Travis is
Mhm,
like,
mhm.
you should stop this. I think this is enough, like looting. And then so you get so that, but if you didn't sell them off, then you get to recruit Trish. If you
Ah.
did sell them off, you recruit Travis for some reason. If you did, I don't know.
Says a lot about us as people.
It's weird. Like I get it's weird, but I guess how much do you I guess her you remember that the character gets to get like turns a new leaf, or is it like you know,
Honestly, I recorded this 2 years ago and then I didn't play the game. But I do remember that group of people, and I only learned vaguely, obviously, about the whole recruitment thing, like afterwards,
yeah
after the project came out.
yeah yeah. Well, there's that. Now, okay, that's that for triangle strategy. Again, masterpiece of the game. Um, but we'll stop the share. We'll stop the share at the moment and get and talk a little bit about you.
Okay.
So, here's my philosophical question for you.
Okay.
Philosophical question. Let's think about like, okay, you play like characters like Trish. You play these little girls, right? You play you
Mhm.
someone like Huo Huo, who is very like bustling with energy. Is
Yes, and I just want to make the distinction really quick. Otherwise, MiHoYo might jump on me for this. I am the English voice of Hua Hua. It is also Hua Hua is also played by other actors in other regions. So I just want to just make that distinction really quick.
as is Trish. It's a Japanese game. As
Hmm, hmm.
Tine, as
Yes, but for
oh,
MiHoYo specifically, they like that distinction.
and her I've heard Hua Hua's Chinese VA and she's fantastic. Uh,
Yes, fantastic.
and we'll talk a little about you as being of course Taiwanese background and how that might influence your acting, but we'll get there soon. But yeah, yes. Um, but outside of that, um, how is there anything? Is there anything about your acting that translates into you as a person? That is like, is there anything that I think this goes into also your decision in life to not be a doctor and to be an actor? Is there anything that's influenced how you act in everyday life that is influenced by being an actor?
I want to make sure I understand. Sorry, could you repeat the question one more time? I just want to make sure I understand.
How's voice acting influenced the rest of your life in a way?
Oh,
Like like when you're not acting, is there anything that not saying that your characters get into your head, but just the spirit, that creative spirit that
oh
play.
yeah. I would say like the biggest thing is probably just the way I hear sound now. Like I can walk into any public space and immediately I'm like, "Oh, the reverb in here is really high," or like, "Oh, this room has a lot of echo," and or like I'll walk into a room and be like, "Wow, I could record something in here." Like the sound, like the way, And I think like singers would relate to that too. Anyone who like uses their voice a lot, but just like walking into different spaces and immediately hearing sound quality, um, which is interesting because I had never noticed things like that before. And I think also just like the need, and I think I already had a little bit of this even way before voice acting, but like the need to like uh or I guess the interest and the need to be sort of in tune with like the sounds that you hear and like being silly with those sounds. So for example, I hear someone who speaks with a different accent, and all of a sudden like I'll be in a public space and I'll be like, whoa, like that sounded really cool. Like either I know what the accent is, or if I don't know what it is, it's like even more interesting to me. And then all of a sudden I'm trying to like imitate them because I love the different sound qualities of it. Or like if I hear animals and I hear weird sound come out of my cat, I'm over here like trying to like speak to my cat in like cat language. Any like funny noises people make in life, like burping or farting or snorting. If I hear a sound like that, like from someone else, I'm like, oh, that was a fun sound. I'll literally be like trying to imitate it for the rest of the day.
Well, okay. Wait, can you hear me?
Hmm.
All right. Um, yeah, that makes sense. I guess I'm also thinking around the idea of maybe this plays into your story, but a little bit about does it feel like is there I guess I've learned this a lot from Richard Horvitz, as I think I've told you I learned from him in that there's
Hmm.
something about the inner child, something about having the a will to like be creative and be like enjoying life and in the moment, like especially when we're acting
Yeah.
characters, like especially
Hmm.
for someone as unfortunate, like with such an unfortunate life as Huo Huo, that
Right.
we still get that we can have that we're allowed to have fun while we're in pain. And people are when they're watching a show. I think Nietzsche makes this point about what we enjoy ourselves when we see the actor in pain. And I know, especially also since you have to do you TV stuff as well. Like when we that is there anything about do you think that you've been able to like say, okay, I'm I'm not booking a role and something is not going well, and I feel like, hey, I'm just gonna be on for the ride. I'm just gonna enjoy the ride, and eventually something else is gonna get it's gonna be good. It's gonna happen. Um, is that at all something that comes to your mind when you
Yeah, I mean, definitely. There's, as a creative person, being able to work in a creative field is such a joy and a true blessing, and I'm grateful every day for that. Definitely, like you said, the idea of like play for the inner child, um, but also, sort of like, um, when things like aren't fun, when characters are going through a hard time, like Huo Huo, and sorry for the spoiler if you haven't played yet, but Huo Huo has this whole like bullying, backstory. You kind of learn how.
show you, we're gonna play that. Yeah, we're gonna play that.
Yeah. We're, and I was bullied a lot when I was younger, all the way through high school. I had a really, really hard time with the amount of bullying that I, went through. And so, just being able to sort of like mirror those experiences, and, it's hard, those are painful memories for me. And so, but I can really, relate to Hua Hua in that sense, but also, see sort of like how she got out of it. Like we hold mirrors up when we're acting, right? We're showing different experiences that different people will be able to relate to. And so, it can be painful, when you have a storyline like bullying, but at the same time, at least with Hua Hua, like you get to see sort of like how she came out of that, how she was able to learn, or to unlearn really all that negativity that sort of like came her way when she was a child. So there's that aspect of it as well.
Exactly. And I feel like, um, well, yeah, I think we'll, yeah, I feel like, how much do you feel is healthy when acting for direct, yeah, what we call, I think, what's it called? Experience, um, emotional remembering. I forget there's a specific term for it, but it's a very dangerous. I feel like some people is like it's
Yeah,
very
like method acting.
like emotional recall. I think it's called no something like that.
I think there's different people call it different things.
But
But like you could call it personalization. That's basically all method acting is like really putting you there. Personalization, yeah, emotional recall, whatever it is.
yeah, isn't it sometimes a little like, I feel like sometimes it's very dangerous because when you start putting yourself in that position when you're acting, you feel like we talk we do you know just like okay, think about talking to your friend. But like when you have to bring it is there's a way to do it, I feel like in a way that it's like is there is when you then it feels like it's not as I guess the thing is if it's if you're able to then relive that experience and have fun doing it, then that means you conquered your demons. But there still feels like there's a way in which you could separate to do that in a way that's healthy and where you don't immediately then get depressed right after you act.
Right. And everyone has a different method that works for them. For me, um I have no trouble going there. I will open whatever wound I need to on my trauma. I'm like, "All right, trauma, you were trauma, but now you are going to make me money." You know what I mean? Like I'm going to use my trauma that's going to be beneficial to my career. And honestly, I believe, and others might not agree with me, that as actors you have to be willing to go there. That being said, there is a healthy way to do it. You need to know as much as you need to know how to find your way into that space. You need to be able to find your way out. And depending on what the trauma is and how long it's been since that trauma and how much therapy you've had, that in and out can be easier or more difficult. I mean, some actors, they use substitution. So like maybe if one experience is too painful, they have another experience that's less painful that they can use for that situation. But um, I think the greatest actors that I've seen out there, they will go there. They will go all the way. They will put themselves in that headspace completely. But they have to find a way out. And the ones that don't are the ones that end up having to take long breaks from acting, which is fine. Like, honestly, do whatever you need to do for your mental health. That's number one. But it's finding ways to come out of that. Like, what can we do to get out of that headspace? Whether that's like listening to calming music, eating some chocolate after the session, watching your favorite sitcom that you've seen 100 times. Like, whatever it is, you have to have a way to get out of it.
And I guess then do you feel like that's then being able to help you, like the fact that you're able to, like I like there's I'm not I'm as I'm a I'm in, as a guy I think I'm into psychology, but I'm and into definitely clinical stuff. But I think about I'm not as I'm more I research art therapy and like sand play.
Hmm.
Drama therapy is still as a is weird as an actor. I still don't know if I've truly went understood drama therapy, but like drama therapy is like from what I the little I know of it, like you I guess you reenact those traumas and you're able to sort of put yourself in a way that's healthy, that is healthy. So it feels like if I mean in a way when as artists when we're able to say someone is able to paint a piece or do a sand play piece or paint or sing a song that is able to reflect on their trauma and doesn't just say maybe I sing a song that is about how much I lost my boyfriend or something,
Right.
and it's just like and it just
Yeah.
and it just takes out those wounds. I mean, the best some of the best art is made from pain. Is made.
Absolutely. And I think the best part is, and I think the reason why that works is because when we do sort of recreate those moments, from trauma or pain or whatever have you, we are in control in that situation, right? Because the first time it happened, we weren't in control, and
Exactly.
that's why the thing happened. But now, like, if I'm gonna, like, I'll say my classic, like, yeah, I have daddy issues. I grew up with like a messed up dad, but like that's something I couldn't control when I was a child. But now as an adult, I can remember that. But when I use it in my art, I get to control the narrative. Like I can bring back that real, those real feelings I felt at the time, but I am in control of the situation now. And so I think that's why it's cathartic, because we're going from a place where we had no control in that situation to now it's like, oh, I can use that to my, I can manipulate it, change it however I need to fit what I need right now in my life. And that makes me feel better, honestly.
Yeah, I think and I feel like that when I argued, I basically wrote a whole paper on playfulness and how it could maybe connect us to nature. Um,
Oh, I love that.
exactly. I interviewed a bunch of voice actors and small time voice actors, but one was not small time, but lives in Italy. But either way, I wasn't able to find a absolute connection. But I made the argument that playfulness is a means at which we can be open to the world.
Hmm.
And and I think you were talking about exactly like we there's a thing, the notion about creating and destroying, that you sort of that you're destroying the darkness of the memory, and you're creating this new way in which you can now insert yourself and be comfortable in that narrative. And
Hmm.
that's why I argued, okay, if we're playful, then like there's a story of the of who's so playful that he can just walk into a den of snakes, of venomous snakes, and just feel and not care, right? It's like
Yeah.
that playful, nothing phases us. And I feel like that the joy of art, and why I think definitely people just need to be more playful in their lives, is so we can allow ourselves to insert ourselves. And I think another thing Horvitz told me is like, I mean, I remember I started acting, and I had to be, I thought I was mature. I thought I was the smart one. So I thought I was only going to play the mature ones and the smart ones.
Hmm.
But now I find myself doing stuff where I'm playing absolute dumbasses. Absolutely.
I love it.
And I love it because I don't care. You can just look on yourself, and that's the joy of comedy. That's the joy of,
Hmm.
that you can play those things and insert yourself and be whatever you want to be. Obviously, there still has to be something connected to it. Like I still feel like there's parts of me in characters that like I'm realizing more and more. Wait, I can play this character. Oh, I can play that character. Oh, I can play that character. And it's still,
Hmm.
especially I think the hard thing is like, oh, me as just the generic protagonist. Like I've never found myself as the generic, but I was always, I have to be over the top to be something else. But like I just listening to like Howard Wong play in the Rurouni Kenshin dub, and I'm like, wait, I can do that voice. I can be a slick protagonist. Who says I can't? Like,
You could be anything,
anything.
really. Yeah, we're all so complicated and multifaceted, and yeah, we may lead with a certain energy, but at the end of the day, we're all human.
Well, let's think about being anything about your backstory. I know I've been hinting at it, but at least a little bit, maybe not the long story, but about how you were going to be a medical student and then you switched. So tell us about it.
Oh, yes. I grew up my whole life thinking that I wanted to be either a doctor or a lawyer because that's what my parents told me the best jobs were. So I was like, oh, those are the best jobs. I'm going to be that. Um, and so I was also like good at science naturally. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll be a doctor. It'll be super easy. I'm gonna like save people's lives and stuff. And then I got to college and I majored in psychology and neuroscience. And while I very much enjoyed the subjects, I'm very much a total nerd. It was easy for me. At the same time, I started thinking, all right, so what exactly am I going to do with this? Because it's one thing being good at it in school, and another thing to be like, all right, like this like job that I'm going to do as an adult for maybe like 40, 50 years. And so I was getting ready to apply for med school, and two things happened. One is at the time I was competing in a hip hop mega crew. I had been doing dance for many years at this point, and we were rehearsing like easily 20 to 40 hours a week for competitions. And before one competition, I basically threw my back out. I pinched a nerve, couldn't walk. This sounds very dramatic, but I was like semi paralyzed for a little bit. And it really made me rethink you know, what am I going to do for my art now? Because I've also always been a very creative person. So all of a sudden I had this like big loss of like art, and I had like a whole identity crisis about not being able to dance anymore. And the second thing that happened was I interned in a rat lab with one of the professors at my school. And I learned over the course of that internship how much like the research side of the medical industry I was just not ready for. Like I knew it on a theoretical level. I'm like, yeah, you know, we do use rats to test medicines and the research behind developing medicines, you know, whether I want to work in like cancer or cystic fibrosis or like whatever, it's going to involve animals. And as a big animal lover, like who one that was like tasked with like raising the rats and feeding them and like watching them become like go from babies to being adults, like it was really hard for me to like then watch them sort of go through that. And my professor at the time was researching pain medication, so you can imagine, you know, to test pain medications you have to cause a certain amount of pain. And so I decided I hated that. I was like, I can't do the medicine side of research, so that means I have to become like a face to face, like a doctor or like a surgeon, you know, someone who like works with people, not doing the research side of it. And then I thought about like sort of the scenario where like if I was a surgeon, you know, things go wrong, someone dies on your table, you know, it's not your fault. But like for me, as a naturally very highly emotional person, I was like, what if I had to tell someone they had like stage 4 cancer with a straight face? I don't think I could do that. I think I would be crying and you would have to comfort me about your cancer and it'd be a bad situation. And so that's when I was like, maybe not this. But I was already almost completed my degree at that point. So I was like, well, I'm not going to like drop out of school. I'm going to finish my degree. But, you know, I think I'm going to try acting because I don't need to like be super like athletic like I was with dance, at least with acting. Like it wasn't something that was going to irritate my back. I have stage 2 like spinal degeneration in my lower spine, which was why dancing was becoming too much with the amount of dance I was doing. And then that's when I took my first acting class.
Mhm. You would never have you never did like stage or anything in middle school, high school?
I like did through school, but it wasn't serious, you know? Like it was just, you know, in first grade, I did Beauty and the Beast, I did The King and I, you know.
So you never like high school, you never did
I
stage.
did half a semester of Annie in high school, but I ended up quitting because it was a 0 period and I could not wake up at 6 a.m. to go, so I never finished it.
All right. So how did everything? So what happened next?
I took my first acting class and I fell in love and I was like, all right, I'm gonna make this work. I worked so many side jobs to keep my schedule flexible, but also have enough money to support myself in LA, which is very expensive to live here. And then it was just, yeah, it was like classes and then year after year after year. I did only start in on camera. I didn't move into voiceover till like a few years after I started on camera. Um, and then yeah, just a lot of auditioning and taking classes and then finally somehow, I don't even know how it happened, somehow started booking work.
And then you met obviously David Rosenthal was a teacher of yours, right?
Yes, he actually came and he guest taught at the studio that I had been taking voiceover classes at. And just after one class with him, I fell in love. I was like, I loved his energy. I loved the way he approached scripts, his script analysis, and I loved how he directed me. And so after that, I started taking private lessons with him regularly. And I still coach with him regularly to this day.
Oh, you take lessons from him still?
Yeah, yeah. Whenever I get auditions, I have like a few coaches I bounce around between, but he's like one of my go-tos.
Right. Well, I guess then before we go on to Full Hall proper, um, I guess advice then for anyone who's interested in voiceover and wants to make this happen and maybe it's just like stuck with like, oh, what can I do this or should I do something else or um Like how was it fundamentally for you that like truly just you just it just perseverance. So
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I really think, I mean, the arts is just hard. Everyone knows that. It's, there's nothing guaranteed in art. You could be a great artist and never work regularly. That's very common. Some of the best acting work I've ever seen in my life happened in an acting class, not on screen where I paid money to like watch it somewhere. Um, it is a marathon, not a sprint. I know everyone says that, but it's much easier done by just saying it than in practice, because that really, they say it takes 10 years to break into the industry from wherever you start. Most of the people that you see who are successful in their 20s started when they were kids, when they were like 8, 9, 10 years old. Um, and I would say, besides just that concept, really structuring your life in a way where you can have like survive wherever you are, like, your survival stuff, pay your rent, your utilities. You need that secured, and then you can pursue an arts thing. Like, unless you come from a family with a lot of money, like, finding a job that's flexible, that's going to support you, so that you have extra money and time to invest in your acting career. If it's a job that you hate, it's not going to work because you're going to get burnt out really, really quickly. So you have to find something that you really enjoy. For me, it was babysitting. I was a personal assistant for a boss that I loved. We're still friends to this day. I was bartending. I enjoy bartending. Versus, like, I had friends who were in day jobs where, like, every day they'd go to work depressed because they hated their day job. And then what ended up happening was, like, then they'd go to acting class and they'd bring that negative energy into acting class, and they'd be acting, but then they weren't booking work, and so they were pissed about that, and then they were just negative all the time. And that's the fastest way to burn out, is if you're upset all the time. You have to find things that bring you joy that you can do while you're pursuing your acting career. Otherwise you're just never going to be happy, and like, what's the point if you're not going to be happy? And then the last thing is to really understand the commitment. A lot of people will say, "Oh, I'm going to move to LA for a few years and try it, and if it doesn't work out, I'll leave." Unless it's a miracle case, like, nothing's going to happen in that first 3 years. Like, it's really grounding yourself, being patient, and taking each little win step by step, and celebrating each little win you get, so that you can mentally stay in like a happy place, like, as you're pursuing this career.
all right, on to Huo. So I did ask my good we have a on this channel we have my good friend Wesley Shunwei Leah who comes on and talks about the Asian philosophy of Genshin. And I did ask him, showed him the Chinese characters for it, and um English localizers weren't off. It's Huo Huo. That rings a bell. That would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So Huo Huo, that's fine. There's been much greater Hoyo butcherizations. I cannot get over Chang the when it's those minor but Chang the Ninth. Oh, God.
Yeah. It's hard because with these games that are translated into English, with the voice actors they hire, not everyone can do pronunciations. So they have to find a balance that's like, they want it to be as close to the original as possible, but it has to be a sound that all the actors can do, because if they're going to say the same name over and over, if 10 people are going to say the same name, it's got to sound the same. I think that that's why some of the names end up getting really far from the original
But all
sometimes.
pretty well. Like they got the UN. They like they do like most of the E's turn into Is. So sometimes they don't, and it's weird when they don't do it. But they still got the I think they have the general thing going on, but some still, as I said, sometimes in certain things, like there's in the Fontaine Devil one again, that's also it's Fontaine, but they freaking just said Fontaine for some reason. For Genshin, like there's one random NPC that freaking pronounces like there's this meme now about this machine that decides all of the laws, and there's one
Hmm.
character that pronounces it completely correct, and you're like, what? Well, it's just and at least cut it now. It's like everyone's just over choose my So it's like
Yeah, I don't know.
that
Uh,
pronounces it completely correctly. Is like you're completely out there. I've so
yeah, they try their hardest to make it all the same, but sometimes lines slip through the cracks or there's different directors. And that's where things sort of, can get a little iffy.
so have you seen this the trailer?
Yes, if it's the one of the two, there's two trailers, right? So I've probably seen it.
Which one did you see, the teaser or the 3D one?
Both.
Okay, so we're gonna move on from that then. We're gonna move on and do have you seen we talked about the scene, we talked about her being bullied. Have you seen that properly rendered in game yet?
I don't think so. I think I watched a clip, but they talked about it, but I didn't actually see, like, I remember the lines I recorded for it, and I didn't see or hear those lines.
Let me try to. Well, that we have something special for that, but here it is.
Where am I? Tail? Are you here? I feel like I've been possessed. Mom? Is this an illusion? Mom, what are you doing here? I've missed you so much.
Stay back! Don't come any closer. I don't know who you are, but you're not my Huo Huo. Keep that filthy thing you're carrying away from me.
Is my sister okay?
The farther you stay away from her, the better. I'm sorry, Huo Huo. Your father and I had no choice but to send you to the Ten Lords Commission. Oh, it's best if you pretend we never existed.
Hey, I remember you. Huo's tail is all singed. It looks like a giant sparkler. Stay away from us, monster! Trying to make us feel sorry for you? I can't stand people who do that. You're all so mean! Believe that freaky tail of yours! No one else has a tail that catches fire! Get lost! We shouldn't be talking to a monster anyway. Let's get out of here. But I'm not a monster.
We're gonna keep on that, but I guess what do you? So I'm guessing you don't. You have they didn't play for you the other. Do you ever are you able to feedback from any other voices? I know I've probably heard this a million times, but generally I know you're only one recording in the room. But do they ever have someone else's lines to be able to play off of, or for this whole time you were just recording?
No, not for this game, no.
So I guess how does it feel to see this then?
It's cool. I mean, I didn't even like when I record Huohuo's lines, I don't even see the other lines. So I just get context from the director and I only see Huohuo's lines.
Not even Tails lines?
No, not all the time. I mean, I guess it was different with the trailers. I saw it, but for these lines here, it was just Huohuo's lines.
Okay. So, I guess then let's talk. I guess bring out your. So how was your bullying past, like being bullied? I guess informed that like little performance right there.
I like just whenever you're bullied, you're basically othered, right? You're singled out for being different. And so for me, I mean, there are various reasons. I went to a prep school, like a K through 12 prep school, growing up, and I was there on a scholarship for most of the time that I was there. And so we were just much poorer than like all the other families who sent their kids there. And so, I was often made fun of for not being able to go on class trips because my parents couldn't afford it. For not, people would ask me what I did over breaks, and I'd be like, oh, I just hung out at home. We were like, oh, like you didn't go to Mexico? Like everyone else went to Mexico and Italy and Japan, you know what I mean? Like they would be, and so it was just like I was like weird for not also doing those things. I was made fun of for dumb things like not being a cheerleader, not doing any sports. For one time I brought dumplings to school and I was made fun of for that. Because people, I mean, in my head, I was like, even like, who's never like seen or smelled a dumpling before? For me, that's pretty basic. But like, even some people would be like, ew, what's that? Um, I was even made fun of, at one point for being flat chested, in middle school when everyone was like going through puberty. Just like for kids will find anything that they want to make fun of you for. And I really think overall it all comes down to the same thing, which is just like picking something out that you don't like about someone that you're going to bully them for, or that you think other people will like. Some people bully as a way to fit in, right? They think, oh, if I bully this person, other people are going to think I'm cool. Whatever the reason is, but it all comes down to othering the other person. So I think like most people probably have experienced some form of bullying in their lives. And I think they can relate to the feeling of being othered. So you don't really have to get bullied for the same thing to really know what bullying feels like.
And I feel like, I get, what about with the experience with the mother? Obviously, I'm sure you and your parents are on good terms.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I had a strained relationship with my mother growing up. Now we're really, really close. But it was mostly like when I was younger, I didn't understand. She was so culturally Chinese, and I was growing up in a very American environment. And so I didn't understand why she would act a certain way. I had certain rules that my friends didn't have. We struggled in that aspect. But she always loved and accepted me for who I was, even when I was definitely the asshole. It was me, mom. But like I would say, for strained parental relationships, that would be the relationship I had with my biological father. Just because he was a shit father. Not in the same way that Huo Huo's mom is acting here, but that feeling of rejection, I very, very much relate with.
Yes, definitely. I guess then that makes it to you. So this you of what I know so far, you played so Draculaura. They made Taiwanese for because you played her. Huo Huo is obviously Chinese. Well, from Shenzhou local, but basically China. And then I saw that you played Lan Shuzhong in Love Live. So
Hmm.
I was wrong. This is not even your second. It's just at least your third Chinese character. So, how do you feel that bringing in your background? Honestly, even outside of just the Shenzhou characters, a lot of the cast is Chinese, which is, I mean, for a game that is obviously made in China, I, maybe even for characters that are supposed to be quote unquote Russian, like the from the Guerrilla Five people, like is maybe something you're able to take from that. But obviously, since you are playing a Chinese coded character, how is that able to inform any of your choices about understanding the character? Obviously, you're not a fox, but
I mean, I really think for Hua Hua, it didn't really inform, just because even though her character, all of these characters like originate from like, the Chinese version, culturally there isn't anything super Chinese about her. Because I know I actually didn't even think about the fact that a lot of the cast was Chinese. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, I guess they are. But you don't have to be for a game like this because it's not culturally significant to the game. For Lanju in Love Live, she is specifically like Chinese Cantonese, and she actually speaks, a little bit of Cantonese and Chinese on the show. So for her, it was more culturally significant. Um, And for Draculaura, you know, making her Taiwanese wasn't just like, oh, like we're just gonna make her Taiwanese. Like she actually has a whole backstory with her parents, and she speaks Chinese on the show. And as the show goes on, you know, we may see her reveal a little bit more of her Chinese roots. And so for her as well, like it was definitely, you know, being able to bring that part of my life felt really nice. But for Hua Hua, no.
I guess though there's something about the fact that at the end of this, it seems like she learns to accept that both Hale learns to enjoy quote unquote being with Hua Hua, and Hua Hua I guess sort of enjoys sort of not really her job. So she's like, I think that the fact that it feels like the Foxians like they're made to do a certain thing, and they are, and like she's doing something she doesn't want. That still feels like feels pretty maybe relatable, and especially at the fact that she sort of then learns to accept that she needs to do this thing she hates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, she definitely has a clear, like an arc that she goes on, right? This sort of like journey of self-discovery and self-love and acceptance of like who she is and coming into her own. And then she has this like hilarious dynamic with Tail going on the whole time where, you know, he's exactly what she needs to figure out who she is.
Okay, let's briefly and then we'll give Trails and Fire Emblem love because I think
You're not an illusion. Oh, you're here! You're actually Tail! Where have you been all this time? I thought you were already...
Dead? Well, I haven't exactly had a picnic. Exploding into countless shards, being your shadow for all those rotten years. It's about time I had some good luck. I thought about getting out of here, but... I couldn't shake the feeling there was something wrong. So I came back to see if you could manage on your own, or if you were still a scaredy cat.
I'm sorry. I guess I still am.
No! You're selling yourself short. You're daring. How you had the courage to do something so dangerous amazes me. It's not bravery you lack, but sense.
What other choice did I have? I suspected that Cirrus was deceiving me, but the thought of losing you forever was... unbearable.
Forget about all that. I'm here now. But... did everyone really leave you because of me?
But you came back for me. And that's all I need.
Well, since you put it like that, I suppose I have nothing to feel guilty about anymore.
so. I guess she learns to like Tail when like I remember like right not too long ago she was like you're the reason everything's bad. So like what
Yeah, which is her version of learning to love herself, right? Because he's always been there. He's always been a part of her, and she's always hated that part of herself, and now she's finally accepted it.
exactly like a shadow. It's like a part of the party. Yeah, exactly a party. That feels. So do you feel like she's like she's grown and that she's, or is she still gonna is she still scared about it? So do you think she's learned to like her job? Or no.
I definitely think she's learned to like it a little bit more. And she's come a long way, but she's still on that journey.
Yeah. All right. Oh, okay. So we're gonna just before briefly. I do want to. I know this is. I'm not saying this is your. This is just some little character, but I just want to show you a character that everyone.
I've never seen this before, so I didn't even know this was on YouTube.
This is you. This is you.
Wow.
You. And if people are not gonna like. I don't know. It's like I think it was just bad and I, but.
Okay, the processing fee will be 2 million mora.
2 million? For a processing fee? Are you serious?
That's right. 1 million per applicant, which makes 2 million total. Don't worry, you can trust my math.
Paimon wasn't so much questioning your math as...
Ma'am, these two here are good friends of mine. I think you'll find I'm one face you recognize.
Ah, Mr. Toma, it's you. By way of courtesy, allow me to reduce it to 400,000 mora total.
Yeah, so what, you just played a character that basically was that the character needs to get off this part of Inazuma/Japan, and
Hmm.
and you're just like the government bureaucrat that's like saying you need to pay all this money that the characters don't have.
Right.
That's you. That was your voice, right?
It was.
Yeah. All right. All right. So for I have not played Trails, but I have a good friend online
I
who.
have not played it either.
But I guess I don't have much to say, but for anyone for fans of Renne Bright, fans of Trails of PS4, what do you have to say for people?
Just that, I recognized that I was stepping in. I don't know why the previous voice actor didn't return. But I just want to honor the previous voice actor for their work voicing Renne Bright. I was really grateful to step in for this new iteration, and just I hope people like the game.
I think that 4 was maybe the first one that was actually I don't know. I'm not gonna
I
say
don't
that.
know.
There's a part of me that thinks that was the first one that was dubbed, but I also don't know. So, if that is the case, then yeah, we'll see with that. I know it's the first one I know it's the first one that came to Switch, but I actually don't know if it's.
Hmm. Yeah, I just know there was another voice actor who voiced Ren before.
Yeah. All right. Fire Emblem Heroes. How much do as a person that has only known briefly about a genealogy, how much do they obviously it's a very game that was ahead of its time, and for being thrust into that role into someone that from what I hear is a smaller character, but everyone in the story is very very important somehow. Apparently, they know how to make every single character. Obviously, Teenage got something with Ardor and Ishtar, and it's against like this Hilda, not the ditzy Hilda from Three Houses. Forget the voice act, but she did. Everyone did a great job in that game, but not her. This is an evil bitch, Hilda. Being thrust into that role, how much do for like, let's say for people who for to give these characters new voices for the first to give these characters voices for the first time. How much do they inform you about the character to get
Very little. Almost nothing. This game in particular was codenamed. I didn't know what it was when I auditioned, and even when I recorded it, I like found out after. And they don't really tell you really anything about the genealogy unless there's a line that's specific to maybe something that's happened in the past. But for Tine, it was more, I think she had a different name too. I forgot what it was. But it was more they just gave description of her personality traits and her vibe, basically. And I just did my own character interpretation based off of that information they gave me.
like for any of these for how much for dubbing, how much do you model yourselves off of off of especially for these when it's usually just Japan then England then America as opposed to like got that's just there's 4 languages going on for that, but like, how much do you try to like sound to like the original Japanese voice for these?
Um, I usually don't trying to sound like the voice at all. What I'm trying to do usually is a lot of the times we have to match timing. So, for if it's 4 seconds in Japanese, it's got to be 4 seconds in English. There's that, and then any sort of like emotional vibe. But whatever the emotion is, it has to make sense for American audiences when I'm doing the English version. And so most of the time that will affect like efforts just because fighting with Japanese sounds completely different than fighting with like Americanized sounds. So that's usually where I'll see the biggest difference. And then besides that, like sometimes a line in Japanese it's colloquial or it's a saying that would not make sense in English. In that case, usually the director is the person who's sort of like, okay, let's rewrite the line like this or emphasize this word or say it like this, just so it makes more sense to our American audience, and I'll just do whatever they tell me to.
So again, I don't know about, but I definitely know for Genshin the English, the American localization is definitely takes its liberties. His liberty.
Yes. Yeah, it does. And especially when it's a timing issue, then they have to add a lot of words or take out a lot of words just because it's not going to fit if it has to fit within that certain time frame.
And those characters like wanted to go through. Talked philosophy. We anything else about um for- how much have you now talked with with Adam over this? Have you two? I know you're doing a streamly together. But how
We've never really talked. um
streamly?
Yeah, we are. I mean, we're on the same email thread for that Streamily signing event, and like we've tweeted, tagged each other about it. But I haven't had a chance to actually speak to him much yet. But I'm sure I will at the Streamily thing.
I guess for the last thing for the for the audition process, regard how it's always the question about like how did you get it? Like what happened? Like what is there any special story around this one, or just you got the audition and you booked it? Was there any?
Yeah, no really special story. But again, a lot of these video games when they come in, they are code named. So I didn't know, um, like I knew Huo Huo the name, but I didn't know what game it was for. I saw that she was like a fox-like character, but because I didn't know the game, I didn't know like being a Foxian like had that whole, backstory and how Foxians sound. I think I just got lucky with the voice that I picked for her. But for me, what really informed her voice was just her character description. Knowing, she's sort of feeble and scared at the time, but trying not to make her a doormat too. Like even though she's like scared all the time, like she has these moments where, she'll talk back to Tail or she'll yell or scold him, and it's just like for me, it was sort of like finding that balance, like giving her a fire behind her, even though she's scared all the time. And that's the reason I booked the role. Actually, both of the directors told me the reason I got this role was because I didn't make her sound like, this doormat in an abusive relationship. They wanted some fire behind her as well.
Well, how is the reception so far for her? I mean, it seems like everyone loves her.
Yeah, I think it's been good from what I've seen. I know people find her adorable because she is, and a lot of people have compared her to Sucrose in Genshin, just little green-haired girlies, trying to do their thing. But yeah, that's what I've seen at least.
And as we said before, she is apparently a very, very good unit. So
Yes, I know. I downloaded the game. I'm gonna try to start playing. There's a lot to learn. There's a big learning curve, but hopefully, I can get over that so I can play for real.
yeah, I attempted to get her. I was unsuccessful, but it's whatever. I got Ting Yun though, so that was I got a
There we go. Nice.
not on when she was featured, so that was nice. I got A, and Ting Yun's great, though I know there's something about that character that is fishy about her. But either way, I guess anything else you want to say to our lovely fans? It's anyone. Obviously, again, this is the first time you are interviewing about Poha, so um,
Yeah, just thank you for taking the time to see this and for supporting David and his work because he is also a fantastic person. And that if anyone has any more questions that I can hopefully answer, you can always tweet me.
all right. This has been absolutely fantastic, and I'm hoping this is not the only voice actor interview that happens, but uh, Courtney was just so such a amazing and just said I will do it. So This was awesome. All right. This has been David Lee with Philosophical Video Game Philosophy. Peace.